All right. Hello, Red Now Energy listeners. This is Mikhail, and I am very excited for my conversation with Aasha today. Aasha T is CEO and founder of Beyond EQ, author of The Empath is the Narcissist, keynote speaker, teacher, energy master, and more. So welcome to the pod, Aasha.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me, Mikhail, and hello to everybody who's listening.
Yes,
Hello.
we have an amazing community. So hello to everyone. We love you. We're thankful for you. And buckle
Aw.
up because this is going to be an awesome call. I do have
Mhm.
to share, I had shared with you offline, but I had put out into the universe the day you reached out to me that I really wanted to create a collective where it was kind of this like two-way flowing street, and that I was hoping for guests that were aligned with my community and my message to be reaching out to me and have it be just this like full circle moment of people that are aligned with my path, like in that energetic space of calling it out and putting it out there. And the exact day I journaled and put that out there, you sent me a DM and I was like, this shit worked. Like, this is
Yeah.
crazy. So thank you for reaching out to me and helping it be an expander to me in kind of my subconscious believing that we really do create a lot of our reality energetically. So
I love that so much. And it's good because I always talk about taking action, and I always talk about how that has such an amazing place in manifestation. And I think a lot of people don't realize that, but you do have to
yes.
take action. And it's amazing that it was able to be so well received on your end. And here we are.
And here we are. Well, I'd love for
And
you to just kind of dive in, give me a little intro on what got you to where you are today, and then we
sure.
will continue with all of the ooey gooey goodness we're going to get into.
Yes, I'm so thrilled to be here. Thank you again for giving me the forum. And I'm so excited to dive into this really important topic about the empath narcissist dynamic and where I stand with this. So I was called into my work very, very aggressively by, God, the source, divine, whatever you want to refer to it as in your own practice, only about 3.5 years ago. So
Okay.
I'm 42, which is amazing because so many people will jump on the spiritual path for 20, 30, 40 years and sort of wear that as a badge, where I don't believe in that because I'm so committed to depth. And if I got the call sooner, I would have moved sooner. And so I always say, go now if you have something in your soul. And don't wait for another certificate. But in that space of time, in 3.5 years, I have become an energetic expert in emotional and energetic intelligence. So I'm certified at the Institute of Social Emotional Intelligence. I'm a shamanic practitioner. I'm a quantum light body activations therapist, a hypnotherapist, and I'm certified at the International Trauma Training Institute in PTSD and attachment theory. And then I wrote the book, The Empath is the Narcissist, where I rewrote attachment theory, anxious and avoidant attachment, with the understanding of masculine and feminine energy.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, and I do most of my work is in DNA reconstruction. So when I got my call, I had everything removed. I'm going to give you a little insight about what happened.
Yeah.
I was really overweight, about 45 pounds heavier, and I had overactive thyroid, and I got a cancer scare. And it was weird, Mikhail, because I was married to a good man and I had a son, and like on paper, I was living the dream. I was traveling all over the world, living in Australia, and I knew something was wrong and off, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And then by the grace of God, I fell into emotional intelligence, and I started so I've been in EQ for about 9 years. And I realized, I was like, this isn't deep enough. Like, why is everybody claiming they have high emotional intelligence, but everybody I know is like living a double life, right?
Right.
Like
Such
so
a
many.
buzzword. Yeah, to
Yeah.
throw out
Oh, and
there.
I'm so self-aware. Well, are you? Because if you haven't had sex with your husband in 6 months, like, we've got a problem, right?
Right.
And I was a CEO, and I was like burnt out. And anyway, what happened was I ended up seeing an energy healer in that time, and she goes, "You have an attachment." And I was like, "What does that mean?" But I knew what it meant, but I kind of was like, "What is she talking about?" And then I started doing the inward work, and I started feeling better, and I started lightening up. And I was like, me and my husband are going to like save the world. And then what happened was I realized I had a man from 18 years earlier still attached to me, to my soul. And when he let go, I felt it. And so I reached out, very typical sort of narcissistic behavior. I was married. I was very avoidant. That's why I wrote the book, because I believe if I saw myself, I wouldn't have been so avoidant. And when he let go, I felt it. The whole story is in the book. And I went on this crazy sort of like twin flame soulmate, like chaos, and lost everything. My husband left. I got in a car accident. I had to move the country aggressively. I got sexually assaulted. Then I got sexually assaulted the next year. And then I went homeless last year.
Oh my
So the last
goodness.
3.5 years, I've done like 45 years of trauma clearing. And
was your reason in reaching out, you kind of felt that cord cut?
Yes,
and then
that's
was
right.
was it almost like at that point in your journey you needed to get it back? Was that the outreach, is trying to reconnect and rekindle that, and that's what set the whole trajectory of the chaos that followed?
That's exactly right. So for the first, like when I reached out to him, I was like, oh my God, we're meant to be together. Like every single like alarm bell was going off that I was completely ignoring. And I was like, this is the man, right? Like this guy from 18 years earlier that I had dated for 2 years. And, but he was really a catalyst to help me move from my marriage, which was unaligned. And I couldn't move from my marriage because my husband was a good man. And I was like, I felt bad. I felt bad about it. And common problem with a lot of women, we choose these men based off of trauma. So nonetheless, when he let go, I could feel it. I actually said, I felt you let go of me. And he jumped into another relationship. And so for like 4 weeks, he and I were like, we're going to get married. Rah! And then he ghosted me, and he basically karmic payback. And when he ghosted me, I had nothing to grab onto. And I was like, oh my God. So truth be told, I started grabbing onto the inward work, and then I just kept grabbing onto inward work. And then God just kept giving, or the divine just kept giving me man after man. I ended up like initiating off of all these men. I've never had no sexual relationships with these men, but it's almost like they've been pushing me up really fast. And so I've had about 9 men ghost me in the last 3.5 years, like pretty aggressively. I'm talking like billionaires and men that have like promised me hundreds of thousands of dollars for my business, dying and passing away. And so it's been, a lot of abandonment of the masculine. So
sorry, I have so many questions. This
so
is
many, I know it's so much. I've never told it this like strangely. I'm just
in your practice, in your experience, what is your kind of belief system around the ghosting in regards to what that was set to activate in you? And even maybe like an overarching for listeners, what message is ghosting giving us, or invitation?
God, this is such a great question. Thank you so much for asking this. So I teach emotional regulation. So the goal for me with my clients is that anybody can come in and out of your life, and you have very little rupture. Of course, there'll be sadness. Of course, especially in the case where one of the men passed away, it was deeply, deeply sad and a lot of mourning. And you want to get to a point where you trust life so much, because that is actually where the feminine becomes very, very magnetic. So let's use an example. If you and I meet on Tinder, right? And I'm like some guy, but you're not attracted to me, Mikhail. You're not going to actually care if I ghost you. The only time we are affected by being ghosted is when we feel that person has more power than us or owes us something. So the truth is that this is a very, very big truth. Warning bells, let's go. Triggers are going to pop off. There's really no such thing as abandonment, and there's no such thing as betrayal. It's only a behavior that sets off an emotional reaction. So let's say you and I are now we're not dating. Now you and I are business partners, and we're sisters, right? We've known each other for a long time. And I try to betray you by dating your boyfriend, but you don't care because you hate your boyfriend. You're going to be like, oh, well, I don't even care. Like,
Right.
that
Good luck.
doesn't bother
Yeah,
me.
he's yours.
Right. Or the other case is that you're deeply hurt and you feel betrayed, and now you're having an emotional reaction, and then you fall into the victim. When you fall into the victim, which is a very important part of the healing process, I'm not overrunning the victim. I'm letting you know that we have to unweave emotions in that place. The emotions include, excuse me, the emanation is entitlement, expectation, lack of creational power. So what I do is I provide my clients the understanding that they're the creator, and you want to be able to like watch people like come in and come out without so much of an emotional reaction. And
Or like
that
a charge.
is,
It's very neutral.
yes, exactly, like a charge. Exactly. And like, and it's difficult because you have to open up and you want to create these connections and this love. And the more you do the work of this depth, the more you become literally a magnet. And the added bonus is you get like hotter and more stable and more wealthy.
Amazing. Who wouldn't
Yeah,
want that?
yeah, that's it. So, and you attract a much more godly man or woman in this space, something way more aligned, because you don't have a lot of trauma. So then therefore you're going to attract and discern from somebody who's a perfect match for you that doesn't have trauma either.
Right. And you're not just running around like, don't leave me, don't leave me, don't leave me, don't leave me. That kind of desperation energy. Or as you said, I'm viewing you as being more empowered. I'm disempowered. I could never like cut this cord or lose this tether. I'm going to like run around and chase it. And how different the energy is. And all of us have felt this when you're not very into someone. And so you're just sort of neutral about it, not being mean, not playing games, but when you're more neutral, the strength in which that person comes on and is so much more pursuant and initiative is wild compared to the person that you're checking your phone every 5 seconds to see if they've texted you. There's such an energetic currency in exchange that happens in those, especially like initial relational experiences, that is so frustrating because like it's when you like someone that you almost go the opposite way. But what a gift to give your clients to learn how to allow everyone to be more neutral and not charged and just observe it versus, and like wield our own existence versus like, I see this person on a pedestal, I better use all my strength to climb up and get them.
Oh my God, you've really done a beautiful job articulating that. Nothing creates an avoidant person quite like an anxious person. And so I was quite avoidant in my first relationship with my husband. And when I saw that I was avoidant, I was like, oh my God, I couldn't love you because I couldn't love me. My husband literally left the country and moved to a different place. He couldn't actually be in the space of my love. Because he was codependent. And so, but you can't see that because the codependent often first off, the codependent often thinks they have a higher awareness than they do. And then the second reason is because the codependent is the victim, if you will, of the narcissist. But a reason a narcissist is so triggering is because a narcissist sets really strong boundaries. And somebody who's a codependent, who's typically people pleasing, is usually like, well, F them. And at the same time, nobody owes us anything. And I think that's a real reality. So what you want to do is you want to enjoy your own dark energy and your own light energy and like have fun in that place. That's why I'm always like, you got to be friends with your own villain. You got to kind of know that it's okay. Like I have a man right now that's courting me and I have had to, put a little bit of the smack down. And typically I'd be like, oh, like, I mean, a couple of years ago version of me, I'd be like, oh no, I don't want to hurt his feelings. And then like now it's like, well, no, like that's a boundary. And that takes a lot for a lot of people who are empaths to come to that place, but it is a vital piece of it. And I think the other thing that really helps is like realizing that like there's so much hurt feelings in this place. Trust me, I played the codependent after I played the avoidant, I played the codependent, and you realize like how much of it is you. I've seen women and men throw away really good people who are aligned in the same values and vision as them because they can't get to the root of their pain. So I always say, choose a person based off of their values and their vision. If it's aligned, and then they still ghost you, don't shut that person out. You got to get to the root of what you're feeling, because otherwise you're going to get out of alignment again. You can actually have that man or that woman in that love where you guys are like really, really aligned, but you got to get to the root of the problem. And I'll be honest, it's about 90% of it is of women, because of how much energy we hold and we're love. So
it's like our superpower. And then the second side of that coin of the superpower is recognizing how to harness it, how to use it to our advantage versus let it consume us almost. And there is, I mean, I'm sure everyone listening can relate to any situation in life where you're so charged, you're so reactive, you're beside yourself, you are a ball of energy that is just felt by the entire room. Or on the codependent side, we've all been on the receiving end of the person that comes in and slams the cabinet or does the thing that is that protest behavior where the entire energy of the room shifts. You could cut the tension with a knife and that person didn't have to say anything. It was a complete energetic exchange. And those experiences are what helped me recognize how powerful my own energy is and how important it is to get to know that. And like you said, be curious and playful with our shadow versus, nope, I'm just a perfect little angel. It doesn't exist. I'll push it down. I mean, not only does that harm ourselves, but it harms our relationships, because there's got to be a little bit of that darkness sprinkled in to appreciate the light aspect. For sure.
100%. Yeah, you know, I love that. It's like, I always talk about this. It's called integrated narcissism. So integrated narcissism is loving yourself a ton and wanting the best for other people. So it's like, there's narcissism in itself is actually not bad. Grandioso isn't bad. It's how do you treat other people around you in that space? Now, we have to be real. Men take longer to heal than women. So I'll give an example. There's a guy that came into my life like 2 years ago. And we were, you know, initiating off each other, never anything romantic, but definitely like a lot of growth happening. And he slammed the door in my face. And I went through all of the stuff and all the stuff. I've learned so much of it is me and my own stories and my own crazy head. Because I am like a big advocate for the crazy lady, because the crazier she is, the more power she has, believe it or not. Yeah, I love like a good multi-dimensional woman with like a ton of stories. I'm like, oh, she's great. And the door's still open for him because men take so long to heal. Like even my first husband, the door was still open until like last month. It's been like 4 years, but I'm like, he's gonna do it. My girlfriends are like, he's never gonna come, like he's never coming up. And I'm like, he can do it. Because like, I just believe that like, there's so many good men out there, but they have so much bitterness in their system. If I went around, I don't like, this is going to sound terrible, but like, it's not about them. It's about me. Like, and I think women need to take that on. When you close the door to a man, you're holding bitterness in your field as a woman, resentment. It starts to build over and over and over and over and over again. So you want to be light. You want to have your door open. It's a real divine mother energy where it's like, look at him. Okay, he's still dealing with boo-boos. Yay. All right, maybe he'll come up and heal the boo-boos and then it will be magic. But if not, that's okay, because I'm just going to create another man. So it's totally that easy. And there's so many stories between that feeling and the hurt that comes with like the ghosting. Yeah. So for me, when a man ghosts, I'm like, oh, he's just protecting me because his boo-boos are like too big. And and then I deal with my own emotions and, you know, the unraveling. And then what you realize is that like everybody's always moving based off of your frequency. Sometimes they just move a little bit more aggressively. And that's when it hurts us. It doesn't make it right. That's why I'm a huge advocate for emotional intelligence. And I say to my son, you don't ever be unclear with a woman, ever. She can get her lesson from somebody else. You always be clear. And if that woman is really, really hurt and has a really bad father wound, my son could tell her straight to her face with a laundry list of reasons, and she'll still call him a narcissist. So it's you got to realize like these kinds of things. And I think once you do that as a woman, you become so powerful and you attract extraordinary men. I mean, I have extraordinary men in my life. It's awesome.
And such an expansion, because so often you just hear regurgitated, like there's no good men left. All men suck. Trust the men. Men are trash. And while that trope of like the helpless man that can be funny to laugh about because they can't find something in the fridge that's just behind the milk, whatever,
Yeah.
is there's a lightheartedness to it. I also am such a huge believer in semantic hygiene and recognizing, what are we saying? What are we putting out into the universe? If we say over and over and over again, there are no good men left, guess what? We are going to find no good men. If we,
Yeah, that's right.
right. And if we speak about it in a sense of just like, oh my gosh, and I love that you said that, you have so many great men in your life. They're not all meant to be your romantic partner or somebody that you're going to build a future with, but how amazing to constantly be witnessing and letting our subconscious believe what's possible. And then what you focus on, you find. So the minute you say, I'm going to see every single yellow car out in the world today, you see every single yellow car. When you start setting your sight on the good side of things, you're going to see more of that. But if you just have that chip on your shoulder and that resentment, like, you are going to find that in every corner you turn.
Oh, I love that. You did such a great job of like articulating what I'm saying into like such a beautiful, digestible way. But so I say this with my clients, and I think this could be really helpful for your listeners. Every woman is given kingsmen. Now, you might be looking at your current reality and be like, I don't have any kingsmen. There's no kingsmen around. But like, you got to treat yourself like a queen, and God or the divine is going to give you men to support you. So I had this client, she came to me, she was broken. She like had just had her heart broken. And this man, like, she kept saying no. She kept saying no. She finally opened up. And then when she opened up, he came in and then collapsed her. But I could see that the reason that happened was because of the man that she attracted now, after she worked with me for about 9 months. And she has like this amazing, amazing relationship. And I was like, I can see you getting your photo taken and you're out in the field. And then she went and did it. She's like gotten the photo. She's like, I got the photos done. And she's like, I can't believe it. It's happening. I'm like, I know. In just like short 8 months. I don't believe you have to take forever to heal. But anyway, at the beginning, I was like, you need to say, I'm constantly supported by men. There are men everywhere. Men are always supporting me. Men are always, and she's like, I don't even have one man. And I'm like, you need to write down 3 men in your life right now that you have. And it was her father, her coworker, and then her best friend's brother. And I was like, I need you to go and pay them gratitude. Just show and when you pay a man gratitude, the best way to do that is to say, hey, listen, I see that you're really helping me here. Like for my father, for example, I say, hey, Dad, look, I see you put a lot of time and energy into helping me with my finances. My father helps with my finances. And I'm like, I can see that you did that. And I'm so grateful. And I see that you really are helping me. And it's this way that activates them. And I do it with my son as well. I'll say, hey, listen, I see you really put a lot of energy and effort into that. And my son, it like props their chest up, and it actually makes them want to provide more. And so she did it, and she started doing it, even though her current reality was like, she's like, there's no men, Aasha, there's no men. And I was like, I don't care. You've got to tell yourself that story. And now she is like in the most beautiful relationship. She's making millions of dollars. She's in real estate. I know she lost like 45 pounds, completely sober. It's
and
like,
probably has kingsmen just like
yeah,
at every corner she turns. She's like, there's a great man to support me. There's a great man to support me, which again, just starting small with the 3. I love that exercise. Pay gratitude, put that out into the universe, raise to that vibrational frequency surrounding men in general. And then how cool. It's the gift that keeps on giving. That person then walks away with this wonderful compliment and feeling seen in a way that often it's like the male-female dynamic is so pinned against one another. And it's like, what a beautiful thing to appreciate the masculine energy and to seek out the healed masculine and say you appreciate it versus believe that that is like making our light shine any less. It's actually our essence to be able to kind of flow and build people up and help people feel seen. And so that's
I love that.
amazing. What would you say if somebody has that father wound, or say they have the men in their life that have not been kingsmen to them? Do you think it's more important to focus on the positive and find that, or is there healing that needs to occur first within those fractured male dynamics?
That is a great question, because we do have to be realistic, right? So I don't have, there's certain men in my life that are not the healed masculine.
Right.
First thing to note is, this is going to be a really heavy truth again, but this is the very, very real truth of the feminine. She is so, so powerful. So when the feminine heals her inner masculine, we will only begin to create excellent men. That's actually how Muse works. So
Okay.
Muse is an inspiration. She makes men into the men that they are. They're replicating our energy. So a good example is like the Taj Mahal was built for Muse. Like women are out here like building these massive, crazy businesses and stuff. When the reality is really all we have to really do is inspire and love men, and men will come up and do those things for us. So I have men working in my business for free because of the magnitude of how much I love the masculine. Now, again, there are certain men in my life that are very testing of this methodology and this understanding. So when it comes to the fractured masculine, so we have a choice. You cannot, God, let's try to explain this in a way that makes sense. It's like you have to choose between holding on to that pain and that animosity or creating a new future with the masculine. Those are the two choice points. I've dubbed the father wound male resentment exhaustion disorder. And the reason this is because it's not just your dad, it's your grandfather's father's mother's sister's father's father. And then it's your this one, and then this one, and this one. And then it's also the relationship with the father in the sky. And if we don't go first as women healing this, we're going to swing the pendulum the opposite way. So in my work, what I do, let's say I worked with you or some women here, we focus on repairing your inner masculine energy. When that happens, you literally start to see men in a completely different way. So let's use an example with one of my clients. She had so much pain against the man that hurt her in like high school. And when we do the deeper work, rejection wound, abandonment wound, all of these bigger core wounds against the masculine, she was like, oh my gosh, I can see that if he didn't do that, then this wouldn't have happened, then this wouldn't have happened, then this wouldn't have happened. And I would never have ended up with my husband. And so it almost like goes back like Tetris to like release the energetic pain and understand how that played a role in the current moment now. So a good example, like when my husband was like, no, and left, I was like, oh my God, I think he's helping me. Like that was my initial thought, even though like my family was burning down and it was like me and my son and we were like all alone and I had to like move back to the US. I was like, I think he's redirecting me. And and of course there was pain there and there was judgment. He never grew, but if he didn't do that, then I wouldn't be where I am right now. And obviously something better is coming. So it's like this powerful place that you can become in. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah.
And I think it's really empowering to take that back versus hold yourself in the resentment. And I love that kind of like male exhaustion resentment experience, because it's so true that then it bleeds into everyone. Then every man you see brings a charge. And it's like, I'm not safe, I'm not secure, I'm not seen. You already have a preconceived notion about what that experience is going to be. And it actually blocks you from having some of those positive experiences. And what's really interesting is I just connected with a friend that I've sort of known through the community for a while, and our paths have sort of tried to cross, but they haven't. And there's a big tie with my most recent ex. And we just had coffee on Sunday, and she sent me a voice note afterwards. And she said, I'm just going to fill your Sunday with some more gratitude. And she's like, thank you, universe, for this. And thank you, thank you, thank you. And she got to a point and she said, and thank you, blank. She said my ex's name. Yeah. And when I was listening, it triggered something in me at first. And then it was the most beautiful release, because she said, for without your actions, without this invitation for growth, Mikhail and I would not be friends. She would not be where she is today. She would not be in the space of expansion and all these things. And it was wild, because without even meaning to, she helped be the catalyst to just exhale gratitude toward him and be like, thank you and goodbye. Like I can release that and I can find gratitude, because what good does it do to sit in that gross seething feeling, even if somebody hurt you very deeply, which I don't dispute. I would never want to minimize that for anyone listening. But like you said, you have two choices, and which one is going to feel better for your future? Hold yourself in that gross feeling of resentment and anger, or find gratitude, look at all of the tiny little stepping stones that got you across the river, although some were very painful. And
Yeah.
now look where you are. And like,
That's it.
thank you to everything that didn't work out, because there is something so beautiful around the corner. And I would not be able to get there if I was tethered back here, you know?
I love that.
Yeah.
And there's so much there when it comes to the feminine. Most feminine women want and desire masculine leadership and penetration. And like, when you can get to a point, and I know this could feel very sensitive for certain people at this stage, especially if you're experiencing, first off, with male resentment exhaustion disorder, you get exhausted because you're either holding bitterness or you're in love with a man that's not choosing you. And either way, you're too far on either side, and it can
Right.
cause this exhaustion and this
Right.
misalignment. And I went homeless. I was
Mhm.
putting so much energy into this version of this man that didn't actually exist. He existed in my head. I saw like his inside of his soul, and I was like, oh my God, this man is Superman. And then I like ended up exhausting myself, like attached to it. It was me that was the energetic vampire, though. I was the codependent, like, oh my God, this man's everything. And like, it's actually, no, it was like my stories in my head. But what you soon realize is women want, and most women I know desire masculine direction, masculine leadership. It's like this beautiful, penetrative feeling of being covered and taken care of, but they only want it when it feels good for them. So, but masculine direction is coming in every single emotion. So, all of the emotions. So, I've reached a point where I'm almost like I am turned on by men that like close the door on me. I'm like, ooh, oh, that's hot. Like, what is he doing? Why is he doing that? Now, that takes a lot of work to get to that place. And when you can create the relationship with penetration in every single way, you literally become like a very sexually alluring presence for the masculine. They want to fill you up in that place. They want to take care of you in that place. And that's how I live my life. And that's how I help my clients live their life. They all turn into like these sexual magnets and men just start coming out of the woodworks. It has nothing to do with weight. It has nothing to do with makeup. It is allure. It is beauty. It is because they're learning that, that guy from high school did that thing so that this, and this could happen. And that's when you're like, ooh, wait a minute. I am being held by the masculine. I'm being directed, even if it hurts. And that's when you can really submit and surrender and be taken care of by an excellent man.
And what ways beyond the sexual can we learn that penetrative energy, or learn how to allow to be kind of like filled up per se, other than sexually? I mean, what are the ways that you work with clients on?
Yeah, so I have a teaching that I do, which I'm happy to share. It's a free teaching called The Collapse. And what you can understand is when a man pulls away, or let's say you choose yourself, and the pain's just as bad. It can be just as bad if you choose yourself. It's actually, there's a lot there with that one. When you choose yourself, believe it or not, it's actually, if you can keep going, if you saw something amazing in that man and you can keep going, it's actually a really good thing, because a man actually never really respects a woman that doesn't choose herself. So if you're a woman listening right now and you had a guy that came into your life and he seemed like the perfect guy, and then you had to choose yourself because he wasn't growing, don't fret. I think this is where a lot of women really mess up, and they throw them out forever. You don't have to do that. Just keep deepening into yourself. So this is called the collapse. The reason the collapse happens is because you're being emptied out to build on a new energy of like sovereignty, self-worth, feminine and masculine power and empathy. And in the collapse, you might only grow like a little bit, but you never really fully go for it. And so my work just takes you as far as I possibly can. I grow you as fast as possible through a whole series of things that I do: energetics, somatics, hypnotherapy, core wound work, frequency work, emotional intelligence. I mean, you name it, I can teach it. But the reason this is that it's also penetration. So when a man pulls away, or you choose yourself and then he's like flips out on you and his ego starts flipping out and he's like, ah, whatever, and he leaves, that's also penetration from the masculine. It's just going backwards so that you can get emptied out and then you get filled up with like the perfect relationship for you. And so my work is designed to bring you into the most ideal relationship for you. And so in order for that to happen, you have to energetically go through hell. And that even sometimes includes getting your bank account drained, because money is also a masculine energy. And so it's like, holy shit. So if you want a really big, potent, godly, masculine man, you better be ready to expand. And when you expand, you have to take out and put back in, and then take out and put back in. And that's what it's all about. It's fun.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That is such an interesting kind of container to create that growth within. It's different than I've heard of so many, different types. And right now it is a very big topic, feminine and masculine energy. But I know with the feminine, it's about receiving, and that is just in general kind of that like receiving energy. And then the masculine is kind of the doing or the giving. And so it only makes sense that in order you kind of drain some of these other energy leaks or these areas that are taking up space, so that you can be filled up energetically. I mean, I think that's the thing, is it may be this misconception that it's so far from only being sexual. In fact, the sexual side of it is like a small fraction compared to all of the other ways in which as women we can receive. And especially speaking from an energetic standpoint, losing some of those areas in which we have just filled ourselves with energy that does not serve us it's imperative. Otherwise, what do? We walk around with pores that are filled and dripping at the seams of anger, resentment, hurt. And that's that wounded feminine that is so easy to spot. That's sighing loudly, slamming doors, saying things under her breath, has the sharp tongue, is always impatient, and it's like, what a difference when you see that beautiful, receptive, flowing energy that, again, you can spot even further away. When that walks into the room, it's like, whoa, what is she doing?
Yeah, that's what she just feels different. So I love what you said about the pores and like the resentment inside the pores. So they're called like heart shields. So like a masculine man wants to penetrate you. He wants to fill you up. He wants to take care of you and cover you. Now, if your chest and your body and your energy is saying, I'm afraid of the masculine, whether it's your personal belief or not, 90% of it is in your subconscious, and 90% of it is in whatever your mother brought you and your sisters, and all the feminism and all these other agendas and tyranny and all of these things that have been stacked up on top of the feminine. A godly man can't even get in there. So it's like, I have godly men. There's like probably about 2 or 3 that are like high contenders in the courting situation. And they're so penetrative. When they stare at me, sometimes I'm like, oh my God. It's like, oh my God, they can like see through you. And so it's a really powerful, very, very interesting place to be. But it also is truly one of the most powerful things, that the feminine is she's just another level. So like, if we're shielded and we're guarded and we're afraid, so again, here's a good example. Here's a good tangible example. I'll meet women, they want this masculine man, and then he'll come in and then they start setting these expectations. They'll be like, well, I had my heart broken in the past, so I don't want to get into a relationship if you're going to leave me. Well, that's not really how it works, because now you're leading the relationship. So you've got to trust that that man's going to bring you the gift, whatever that gift is. And it can be so, so painful. These are really edgy subjects because people have a hard time letting go of that victim. But the truth is that, and then vice versa, you have the same power, Mikhail. Like if you're a woman and you're with a man and all of a sudden you know that man's out of alignment, we just tend to do it a little more gently. Women do, because we're a little bit more gentle. But if you feel like it's out of alignment, he's going to be hurt no matter what if he has a mother wound. So it's like really about both of us being aware of our own wounding, and then healing the wound is going to always bring you into a more aligned relationship. You can have whatever you want as a woman.
I love that.
You can literally have whatever you want.
Yeah. And I love, love, love what you said when we initially started speaking offline about how after a relationship ends and you know, naturally and understandably, there is this kind of despair and this disheartening, and often this kind of like reconciling what was real, what was not real, all of this, again, invitation to put our energy in places that doesn't serve us. And instead, you said you can have all of the good things about that relationship, and then just without the bad, without the manipulation or the lying or whatever had happened there, you get to then create a reality where all those things that were so beautiful about that relationship and wonderful exist in the future. And how many people would be brave enough to level up and to make some difficult decisions if they knew confidently it's that and more? It's everything you have here, all the good sides of it and more, versus how many people stay because they're like, well, I've heard about the apps and I don't ever want to have to date again. I'll just stay in this thing that is really subpar. I'm not super happy. I complain at the brunch table every time I get together with my girlfriends. And for me, that is such a nightmare compared to what society would call a nightmare that I'm living of being single at 34. This for me is fruitful and beautiful and expansive and allowing me to create whatever I want in the future versus kind of settling into something because I'm scared there's nothing else out there.
I love that. I have, in all truth be told, I have never dated men. It is always magnetism. I put myself out there and I'm always attracting men based off of my magnetic pull. And so even with the women I work with, it's miracle work. They'll all of a sudden, like my last 6 clients from last year, like none of them have re-signed with me because they're all in these amazing relationships. I do think that they'll come back though at some point for like more EQ work or more teaching. Yeah. One of them is teaching it now. And she's just like, I love this. I like coaching emotional and energetic intelligence. And basically like the reason this is they can't see it, but I'm like, oh yeah, we just need to switch this up. It's like your DNA is a program. And so we wash your DNA, and DNA is always finding like DNA. That's what we're doing. That's why the rich get rich after they don't have money stories. They don't have scarcity stories. So they can lose all their money and know that it will come back. And quite frankly, last year I was homeless and I've created over $350,000 since then. And now I live on the beaches of Malibu. And the reason is because I don't have those money stories anymore because I trust the masculine so much. So, but it took a lot to get to that place. I was a mess. I was the avoidant. I was the one who really I was omitting sex from my husband. I was the one sitting at that coffee table, having coffee with my girlfriends, bitch, but not doing anything to change my existence. And I meet these women all the time. It gets to the point where you're like, well, what are you going to actually do about it? Because now you're just choosing unhealthy food, a husband that you have not had sex with in forever, and you're not changing you, but you're also believing that you're the creator of your reality. There's this sort of like gaslighting that women do where they think they're super aware, but then I always say, measure in 3 ways: your beauty and your health, your money and your purpose, and your love life. If those 3 areas are not increasing and growing year on year, and you're not like doing the work to like, you got to look at that. Those are the only 3 ways to measure. And most people are going in the opposite direction, or they've got a shitload of money and no love, or like, one or the other. And you can really have all of it. You really can. It's just a matter of how you change your energy.
Yeah. I saw a photo the other day that was really kind of impactful, and it was 2 pictures side by side, and then it said people who want change, and the line's out the door at like a ticket office, and then it's like people who are willing to change, and there's no one in line. And it's exactly what you're saying, that the most self-aware, resentful woman can sit there and tell you how everyone else in her life needs to change other than herself. That's not a dig. It's like you just see it day in and day out, where it's the person that sits there and they can tell you why everyone else is at fault and why their husband sucks and their sister sucks and their family sucks and their job sucks. And it's so interesting because it's like, what a disempowering place to stand within, because it is not our job to, force other into different growth patterns or into change. And yet every single second of every day, we have the invitation to grow and change. And that is, again, a superpower when you're willing to accept that, because often it's up leveling. It may be rejection is protection and redirection. It may be somebody being pulled from your life. And then you look around even in a month and you're like, holy cow, had that not happened, I would not be here. And so almost in a little bit of like a sick, sadistic way, when things kind of fall apart in my life, as painful as it can be, I'm like, all right, here we go. Buckle up. What's next? So yeah. I
Oh
that.
my God. I think that was such like really wise words. You had a lot of good insights in there. It really, I will say this as well, even investing, putting money into yourself as a woman is masculine. It's penetration. So if a woman can't even spend $500, I mean, my energetic health I budget about $2,000 a month. And so on just my energy health, and I will never stop that. Why would I ever stop that? It's the number one thing women should be working on is their energy and investing in their energy. I will die on that rock. Like if every woman actually just invested in her energy, we'd have like no wars because men would be busy protecting us.
Right.
But right now they can't even protect us because we're so guarded, and the masculine doesn't know what to do. They're only following our energetic lead. They literally don't know how to respond to a woman who's controlling. So they run away. And so men want to be inspired by the feminine. They really do. And I know that's so hard for women to see right now, but it's really the truth. And men have their own work to do. Don't get me wrong. But I will say, like, it's like, oh my God, this is really the reality of it. And what I find is like when women invest, they get it. They start to really understand. And I'm like, how can a masculine man cover you, provide for you, and invest in you if you're afraid of money? They're directly connected. And so it's, just a really powerful piece.
Yeah. And as you said, with the investment in your own energy, our energy is our currency. And so the investment in that becomes then what we're able to call back in. It becomes the financial gain. And so to your point, I think some of that investment, and especially when you find, rather than being the woman that's like, I will secure my finances in a way that I can go around saying, I'll never need a man, I don't need a man, I don't need a man. Instead, it's how can we invest in our energetics so that the world starts to just be almost wielded around us. We have more than we could ever need. We are able to also be really divine in the energy that we're putting back out there. And again, that just creates like this snowball domino effect that is so powerful, but is so difficult to conceptualize when people are just like, what is energy? Like I think that it's like there's a big disconnect in a lot of ways as well.
Yeah. And it's the feminine is designed to move the money through her. So a lot of women will grasp onto jobs and misaligned relationships because they're afraid of actually letting go and trusting that God's going to bring them, or the divine is going to bring them what they need. And I'm not saying for women to not put themselves in danger. And I speak from extreme experience here. I lost every single dollar that I had. And that was last year when I went homeless. Not only did my father come in and cover me, another man came in and helped me rebuild my entire business basically for free. And so it was like my commitment to like love and this mission and bringing women back to love, like, is enough for, God to provide. The money will always provide. And women get scared. So we like plug into like the system, or we plug into jobs, or we plug into this. I have like removed all plugs and contracts. I made a declaration like 2 months ago, remove all plugs and contracts, anything out of alignment, anything out of misalignment. I have lost so much money. And then 2 days ago, I came into $80,000. So it's like, and this is like something that's very common in my energy field. I don't have like a big reaction to it because I'm like, oh, okay, it's just flowing through me. And so it really is this unbelievable way that this is how women should be understanding manifestation. It's awesome.
It really is. I had done a solo episode a while back about kind of like finding an energetic minimum about everything in your life, and then kind of not accepting anything that's below that minimum. And within that, I spoke about exactly as you said, like the things in our life that we just look at as easy. So for women, maybe it's maintaining friendships, or it's being nurturing, or it's like a certain workout that you do. We don't put any pressure on that, because in our minds and in our force field and in our environment, it's like, oh, well, yeah, that's easy. And then because of that, it's super easy. Then we look at the things in our life that we have this like clause into, and it's like, this transactional money, paycheck to paycheck, I'm never going to have enough, scarcity in anything. And those things are so hard. And if you look at it as like an experimental perspective, the person next door may really, really struggle with friendships, but they're a billionaire and they've never put pressure on money. So it comes and goes. There's no issue with it. And so it's like, you can't argue with that when you look at it time and time and time and time again, and then recognize what can we do in our life to find more ease with the things that we've been putting this immense pressure on and never getting the result we want, because we're just sitting there like focusing on it in ways that are never going to allow it to flow and to be provided to us. When we're just sitting there like clenching around it, it's just not going to happen.
Oh my God, I absolutely love that. Yeah. And it's so similar, because remember earlier we had said nothing causes a man to be avoidant more than an anxious woman. It's the same with money.
Yeah.
And so you can really use the same methodology with both, because what happens too is I feel like women are so grasped on to like creating these lives that are like, oh my God, I've got all the financial abundance in the world. Well, what about love? Because if you actually put love first, and I mean deep, potent connection and love first, all the money in the world is going to flow to you in that place. You're going to be aligned with your values. You're going to be every single one of my clients, as soon as they match with a man, they get a massive hit of money. It's like this crazy thing that happens where they're like, oh my God, opportunity, opportunity. I'm like, yeah, because you're putting love first. We have a major problem in leadership where everybody is sort of like in this greed place when we're getting it backwards. All you need to do is start with love, and the money literally follows love, because love is the strongest force. Money is an energy. And so we've kind of gotten it backwards. And that's what I teach, is put love first and then everything follows after that.
Yes, there is, like you said, I mean, such a large disconnect within that. And you see it over and over and over again in so many tangible ways in leadership, and how different it would be if we got those priorities and those building blocks just even shifted slightly to be able to have love and connection be at the forefront. And then how many things just flow when that's where the focus is.
Oh, it's amazing. Like even there's like some beautiful, I don't know if you know Ellen and Grant Cardone, but Grant Cardone is like a big salesman, but him and his wife, she is so devoted to him. She loves him so much. They're a power couple. And even Beyonce and Jay-Z, I know they're getting the heat right now, but Jay-Z came from literally nothing. And I have no idea what goes on in their personal life. I don't really feed into all that stuff, but I will let you know that they worked their asses off, followed their souls, and got to the level that they're at. So we can't change those people. We can only change our own place in society and the hierarchy. If we want change, we have to be the change. You can't just shout about awful, terrible things. I think everybody's looking at things through a lens of distortion most of the time. And we actually villainize people who actually have a lot of money, because it's easier than going and receiving that amount of money.
Right.
So, if you're going to hate billionaires, well, why don't you just become a billionaire and then do the thing that you think that you should do as a billionaire?
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Like, and I guarantee you when you get there, because I always say, like, I've gone through so much hell building my business that some point last year, or even like the year before, I was like, I will never take business advice from somebody who has not created over $1 million in their own business, because it's not that I don't take their advice, but I just don't take them that seriously, because I'll meet clients. They'll be like, oh, well, your ego ends up growing in that place. I'm like, do you have any idea how hard it is to like build an actual business? Mikhail, you've started your podcast, and it's difficult to put yourself out there. It's difficult to to follow your dreams and follow your soul. And so many people would rather villainize the person that has than actually say, hey, wait a minute, I can do that too. I can create that too. I'm worthy of love like that. I'm worthy of money like that. And I have a big heart. So now I'll make good change with that money. But like, Even then, I don't care if my clients make change or not. That happens to be my mission, is make trauma schools. But if my clients just want to buy a couple Burka bags, great, have a great time.
Right.
But like,
Right.
it's not my problem, and it's not my place to judge. And we're
Mhm.
so busy like judging and putting people under the
Mhm.
microscope, where it's like, why don't you just follow your own soul and say how worthy you are of receiving love and abundance and purpose on that level? I dare you to.
Right. You won't be criticized by someone doing less than you. And so
Oh,
that's
yes.
when that criticism comes in, it's when you are just starting out, or for me, you know, putting myself out there, putting my heart out there, putting myself exposed out there. There are moments where I am invited by somebody that may like make a comment or this or that, or whatever it may be. And I can always zoom out. And until you're doing what I'm doing, or like you said, you're 10 steps ahead, or you've built $1 million business, I can hear what you say, and that's okay. You have your own opinion, but like, you aren't doing it. And so
Yeah, that's
you
right.
don't really have the right to, you know, to say that. And I remember I got it was so crazy. I got an email from Spotify like a month into doing my podcast, and it said, congratulations, you're in the top 4% of podcasters, which I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. And it said 96% of podcasters don't make it past the 4th episode. And so the minute you launch your 5th episode, you're already in the top 4%. And so that was so, of course, then that 4% can be saturated and there's a lot of people doing it. But that was very pivotal for me, because again, it was like, holy cow, like you won't fail if you just stick with the thing that you're passionate about. And it might have a different timeline, or it might take some turns you didn't expect, but there's only incomplete successes, not failures, when we're looking at it that way.
You know, I absolutely love what you just shared. It's really interesting because I've coached businesses, because I do online course creation and funnels for people.
Yeah.
And there are women and men that come to me that have this amazing vision, and then so many of them can't even post once a day or twice a day or do reach outs or any of these things. And they want these things and they just cannot seem to get themselves to do it. Now, on the other hand, I have personally burnt down my business a million times and restarted. Like, I'm just restarting again with my 555 course, which I was like, I'm not going to launch this for another 2 years. And now here I am, like, I got to bring it back, because I'll pivot. I'll take the action and I'll make the move. If it's in alignment, it's going to start popping off. And I launched it yesterday and we've already got like a bunch of people signed up. It's like, so you like literally sort of have to like, it's like this combination of taking the signs and like being friends with chaos and knowing what you're actually committing to. And it's really, really powerful. I think that like, but you're right. Like, so many people say they want this stuff and then they can't actually commit to doing the thing, you know? And I really struggled with that a lot. So I get it. Like, I was like a serial entrepreneur, you know what I mean?
Part of the evolution.
That's it. That's it. That's it.
Okay. Well, I see your red nails and I love them. My next question for you is what your personal version of red nail energy is. So kind of the thing that makes you just feel embodied in that magnetism. And it can be a mantra, internal, external, anything for you, but what comes to mind that is your version of red nail energy?
Oh, I love that actually, because that's one of my brand colors. So yeah, I'm so into, I think it's about like fiery and really, but also the great thing about red nail energy is that it's also sweet and loving. And I think that that's probably the thing that encapsulates the idea for me, is that you can be anything as a woman, anything you want. And I think that a lot of women feel they have to be a certain way in order to be loved. And the divine feminine, she's like every single expression. She loves every single expression, not only in herself, but in her sisters, all the way down to pornography, like every single expression of the feminine. And so the red nail, I think, really encapsulates that you can and should love everything about yourself and all of the people around you.
Oh my gosh. Yes, that's so beautiful. And it's so important for my audience and myself to continuously remember we don't have to be just one thing. We get to be all of the things. And that is the essence of feminine energy, is allowing all of that to flow and to be able to be like an adjustable form. We can pivot, we can grow, we can change our minds, we can move freely through things. And so that's such a beautiful explanation of it, because we often get so fixed on something. I am a mom, I am a wife, I am a teacher, I am bad, I am good. You know, we put these connotations around ourselves, and energy can't be contained in that way, and it shouldn't be contained in that way.
Oh, I love that so much, especially the feminine. She's like uncontainable.
Yeah, as she should be. It's amazing.
Yeah,
Don't try, like actually do try and contain her. I dare you, because you're not going to be able to.
I know. Good luck, right?
Exactly. Oh my gosh,
So
Aasha. Well,
true.
this has been amazing. I would love if you have anything else that comes to mind or anything like intuitive that you'd like to leave listeners with. I just want to open the floor for anything you have to say before we close.
No, I think that's really it. I mean, obviously pick up the book if you're into the empath narcissist dynamic. If you're holding any pain against men, I assure you that is going to change everything in your life. It has made me more beautiful, more wealthy, and way more relaxed. And I had plaguing anxiety. So I think that is truly the one wound I'd be working on if you're a woman, is the father wound, the depths of that. And outside that, I'm just wishing everybody the best in their highest timeline. It's so possible for you to go after what you need. It's all about your frequency, and the law of frequency and the law of vibration comes before the law of attraction. That's why the book makes so much sense. You really want to be vibrating at a higher level to attract better. Don't just go into the law of attraction. Remember the frequency first. Yeah, frequency first.
Gosh,
Yeah.
that's such an important note, especially because I think a lot of people aren't familiar with frequency vibration, and instead it's just this attraction that they want
That's right.
But if you're vibrating at a low frequency, you're going to attract that low frequency. So that's a really great message. And I will link in the show notes all of the ways you can connect with Aasha T, and as a link to the book as well. So please check that out and pick that up if it's something that aligns with you. And I'm just so thankful for your time today. This has been an amazing conversation. I could
awesome.
chatting your ear off for hours, I feel like.
Yeah, you're awesome. Thank you so much for having me. And I hope that, I hope to connect with some of the viewers. So beautiful.
Yes, absolutely. And as always, Red Nail Energy listeners, you are loved and seen and not alone. Go out with your best foot forward and your red nails forward, and we will catch you on the next episode.
Yay.